All right, for those of you who were not here in class today, this part's for you, this first part. There's going to be a part later on which is for everyone. So what we went over today in class was we finished our example of green triangle, and I'm going to start with our next example that we did called blue circle, or BC. So our problem was we needed to write a function called BC that takes in a number and produces a blue circle of that size. So what we did is we made a text box right here, and we filled out our contract statement. And in this case, they told us the function name needs to be called BC. And the domain, the thing that it takes in, the directions told us that it takes in a number. And then it produces a circle, a blue circle. So that is going to give us back an image data type. Okay, and then we worked through some different examples right here. We said if I did BC 50, that would make a circle 50 solid blue. And if I did BC 20, that would make a circle 20 solid blue. And as we looked at this, we were able to kind of circle that these numbers right here that we put in, they correspond with this number right here. So we know what place the number is in our function right here, in our circle function. And we know that's the thing that we have to rename. We have to give that a variable name. Excuse me. So we had to figure out, what does that number represent? And we talked about it a little bit, and what we found out is that that number tells us the size of the circle. So we went BC size, and we did circle size solid blue. Now, one question that we did talk about was, why does size not need to be in quotation marks? And the reason is that size, whenever we have words, whenever we have a parenthesis, the first thing it looks for is the name of the function. So it's looking for a word. In this case, it's circle. Okay, so right after a parenthesis, if we have a word, it says, okay, that's the function name. Okay, we don't need quotation marks right here. But the other thing is, whenever we have another word without quotation marks, or even a letter without quotation marks, our program is going to assume that is the name of a variable. And it's going to look for it like somewhere before we wrote this code. It's going to like, oh, have you ever determined or defined what that variable is? And if it can't find it, it's going to give us an error. So this is a variable, and that's why we're not going to put it in quotation marks. All right, so that was that one right there. Okay, and we started working on this word problem called Rocket-height. Okay, and in this one, a rocket blasts off traveling at 7 meters per second. Write a function called Rocket-height that takes in the number of seconds that have passed since the rocket took off, and which produces the height of the rocket at that time. So as we were working through this one, we had to realize that we're not being asked to draw a shape like we were before. Okay? It's not telling us to draw a shape. So we talked about, okay, what are we giving this as an input? What's its domain? What's it taking in? What data type? And we realize that if we look at the directions, it says that it takes in the number of seconds. So it is going to take in a number. Okay? And then it is going to produce the height. And we were kind of struggling. Okay, what is the height? Is it a number? Is it a string? Is it an image? Is it going to give us an image of how high that thing is? And what we realized is that, okay, heights, if I ask you what your height is, you're giving me back a number. Now, that number might be like 5 feet 4 inches, but that is a number. That's not a string. So we realized that, okay, this is taking in a number and it's producing a number. Next, the thing that we wanted to add as we're writing these different functions and kind of making our own is we wanted to add this thing called a purpose statement, which is a way to kind of state the purpose of this function. So to put it in like plain English sentence. So if we thought about our previous function that takes in the number of seconds and produces the height, okay, we would want to be specific as to how this would do that. So our rocket height function is supposed to take in the number of seconds, and what does it do with that? Well, it's going to multiply it by 7. And then it's going to give us the height. So we want to be specific with that. So as we are writing our stuff right here, I'll go ahead and put this guy up here. It's called rocket height. It takes in a number and gives us back a number. Okay, and to be specific about what it does, takes in the number of seconds and multiplies it by 7 to produce the height. That is a very clear and specific statement as to how this function works. Okay? Now let's try some examples right here. Okay, now we'll do rocket. I'm going to make this a little smaller text here. All right, so we're going to do rocket height. If I gave it the number 5, okay, here's the thing. It's asking for what the function produces. Now we know that if I do 5 times 7, I would get 35. So I could write 35 right here. But the question then becomes, what if I do this? Well, I don't know that answer off the top of my head. So when we're writing this part of what the function produces, we want to make sure that we're writing the way that it's going to make that, even if it's a number. Okay, so the way that it's going to make 35 is by using the multiplication function. So we're going to do parentheses, multiply 5 and 7. And then over here, parentheses, multiply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 7. Okay, now if we look at what's changing here, here's our input. That input corresponds with this first number right here. So we know that when I'm writing this down here, I'm going to change this first number to my variable name. Now the question is, what does that number represent? Hey, like what does that number mean? Well, it's not the height of it, because that's what we're getting back. Think about what we're supposed to take in. Okay, if we read our statement right here and our things right here, it takes in the number of seconds. So what does this number here represent? It represents the number of seconds. So when I write rocket height, I'm going to name this variable seconds. Okay, and it is going to multiply seconds and 7. Okay, so rocket height, seconds, it's going to multiply seconds and 7. Okay, so here's what we are doing for homework here. We are going to WeScheme. We're logged in. We're going to go to My Programs, and we're going to go to the Bootstrap starter files, and we're going to open up Rocket. Okay, you're going to press Remix here so that you have your own copy. And now we're going to look at these examples right here that are messed up. Right now, okay, it says that rocket height, if it took in the number 0, it would produce 0. They didn't tell us what math it was going to do at all. Well, and they only did one example, so we don't have 2 examples to look at. So with that one example, they said, okay, well, rocket height is going to take in the number of seconds, and then it's going to return 0. And if I uncomment this line by deleting this semicolon and press run, I will get my thing right here. Now I'll be pressing spacebar, and my time's going up, right? Okay, that goes up, but my height doesn't. And the reason is because it's taking in the number of seconds, but it's always saying, okay, the height is 0. So what we need to do is we need to take these examples right here that we did and fix this. So I'm going to change this to 50, and it's going to multiply 50 and 7. And I'm just going to copy and paste this example right here. I'm going to change this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and in our definition right here, we said it is going to multiply seconds and 7. So we're going to multiply seconds and 7. So now when I press run and I do my space bar, it goes up. And if I go back, it goes back. Okay, and here's some other things for you to try, especially this space one right here. This is a fun one. Okay, so we're going right here. Okay, and you'll notice all of a sudden my rocket seems to be moving more slowly. And now here's the thing. There's a lot more out here. Okay, your homework is to show me that you can run space rocket height here. Okay, that you can make this work the way that it's supposed to. Okay, but if you would like extra credits, here's one thing that you could do. One thing you can do is take me beyond this in a screencast, okay? You're going to screencast all of this. Okay, take me beyond this. Okay, like I want to go way up here. Okay, so you'll have to think about how you could change that speed. Okay, and a second way that you can get extra credit is to make the speed change exponentially. Okay, so that means instead of always being at a static number like 7 meters per second, make it increase by some way. Okay, so make that speed increase somehow. So those are 2 options for extra credit. But everyone must show me that their space rocket height is working with a short screencast. When you're finished with this, make sure you also press save so that it stays there for you.